Lots of fingers are being pointed at Baltimore's mayor and the governor of Maryland about the response to those riots. Would a visit from President Obama help turn a page in the shaky relationship between police and protesters? Well, here's what the president told Steve Harvey this morning.
When I travel, I take a lot of assets out of where they need to be, which is why usually when there's disturbances or natural disasters, I usually try to let law enforcement or emergency responders do their work.
But the president not ruling out a visit down the road. Chris Plant is the host of the Chris Plant Radio Show. Leslie Marshall, host of the Leslie Marshall Radio Show, and a Fox News contributor. Here to talk about this topic today. All right, so Chris, should the president have traveled to Baltimore? It's interesting because there seems to be sort of a pattern developing here with President Obama in that he doesn't use his symbolic power of the presidency to go and evoke sort of calm in these situations, right or wrong?
Well, that certainly is the pattern at this point, and he has declared, as he said to Steve Harvey, who's the host of The Family Feud, by the way, another probing interview, that he's not going to take him up on this case. And honestly, if I were the White House, I would advise him against going too, because this points up the failure of progressive liberal Democrat policies over the course of the last half century in Baltimore. It is a disaster of their own making. It's their chickens coming home to roost. I don't think he'd be particularly well received, quite honestly. And I think it would be an embarrassment all the way around. There's no upside for the president to go.
Well, that's interesting. You know, Leslie, doesn't President Obama have a unique opportunity as the first African-American president, though, to really go and make a difference on these issues?
Actually, no. I mean, first of all, you're talking about security measures that any commander-in-chief and the Secret Service, I think, would say, no, not a good idea to go here now, especially with this unrest. Secondly, you have what he talks about, not just the assets that are taken, the cost. I know what it's like when he comes here to Los Angeles. We all know what it's like when the president visits a city. There's upheaval. And this is a city right now that has enough upheaval, and in a sense, he would be in the way. And then lastly, I don't believe that his presence would make a difference because these people are so angry. This is rooted in anger, not in politics.
You don't think that the president coming out and saying something and being there on the ground might in fact make a difference? And I just want to bring up, Chris, that back in 2008, then Senator Barack Obama highly criticized President Bush for not going and landing on the ground in Hurricane Katrina. So does he have it both ways?
Well, of course, as usual. I mean, look, the Democrats pilloried, pummeled, pounded George W. Bush into the ground for that photograph of him looking out the window of Air Force One. Well, he was made notorious for this. And President Obama, I read the audio on my radio show today, President Obama, candidate Obama, Senator Obama, attacking President Bush for not going and visiting New Orleans. And the reason that the Bush White House gave was that they didn't want to pull resources away from ongoing search and rescue efforts with people buried in buildings. And now President Obama is conveniently using the same excuse when, there's nobody buried in buildings. There's no ongoing crisis.
Leslie, this is a loaded question, and I'm not going to give you enough time probably to answer it. But do you think that President Obama has done enough for race relations? I think a lot of people had a lot of hope and promise when this country elected the first African-American president. How would you score him on that?
Well, first of all, I am a white woman, as you notice, and I know there are many in the African-American community that think that he has not done enough, especially in the African-American communities, when you look at still not as much opportunity or employment and the unemployment rate higher in those communities. However, I would say that he scores higher than any other president because he will speak out and tackle these issues, and of course my buddy Chris over there will get on him for this. So I really think he can't win. I mean, if he visits, somebody's going to attack him if he doesn't. If he speaks out in favor of the community, the police are mad, but I think he's doing the best that he can, and he has to be colorblind to a degree, but obviously cannot.
All right, I got to wrap it there, Chris. But Leslie did a good job with a very loaded question there. Leslie, thanks much, Chris. We'll see you again soon.
Sure.